Amazing.
You've been speaking English all day and I've counted to 12.
The gates.
The gates.
Alrighty. Are you as thirsty as I am? So should we go through the questions to go to the pub afterwards?
I think there's an English pub calling.
Yeah, I can hear that noise.
It's a bell.
It's a bell. Right. Musiker-Board says thank you for the day we had here.
You're very welcome.
Been a pleasure.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
for closing the day, we're going to go through the Musiker-Board provided questions.
Okay.
So
great.
that finally you have to work as well, not just me understanding what you told me.
I can't just stand around and play guitar all day then, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
That's what we usually do.
that's a good approach. First one would be, and we talked pretty much about the idea
Yeah.
today.
Okay.
And there's sort of two portions involved. But the main question is stripping the idea into smaller sections that can show up in a pedal, or could show up in software, or could show up wherever. Is there anything you're allowed to give us as a hint in which direction you intend to develop ID, and is it possible at all with the technology?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we can't tell you too much about future products, but obviously with the technology that we have in the ID series, we already brought out the ID core, as the name suggests. That's the core features and the core technology, which is from the ID series, but into a smaller practice amp package, whereas the ID series is more for pros. We call it ID series, but it's also a nickname ID Pro, because obviously it's very giggable and as loud as Valve. But that kind of technology, I'm sure Dan will agree, takes us into a whole realm of different products. So we'll have to leave some of it to your imaginations, of course. But yeah, there's lots of new projects on the go. We're always looking for the future. We have product plans up until 2017 and beyond now. And a lot of those projects are kind of using that side of the technology.
Yeah, I think addressing those particular points as much as I'm willing to. Firstly, I think there's a comment about using almost like a preamp and using it in a pedal board.
Yeah, one option was the idea of pedal board.
Yeah,
So
I think
to have either a Valve amp or a regular power stage or a PA or whatsoever running behind it.
Well, interestingly, if you've got an ID series, ID 60 head or combo or 260 or 100, there is a feature you can use if you want to run something like that. We have an effects loop feature, which was released as a upgrade. I think it was version 1.3, but don't quote me on it. That if you open up the insider software with it connected, you can activate an effects loop option, which instead of having the line input and the emulated line output sockets as they are detailed, it turns them into a effects loop send and return. And whilst in effects loop mode, the line out socket acting as a send of an effects loop actually direct out the preamp signal.
So basically the smallest possible pedal board would be the one smaller than...
Well, it's on ID series rather than ID core.
Oh, it's not on ID core.
It's ID series.
Okay.
So it's
So
designed
you still
to run
end up
effects
with
loop.
a pretty big package if you want to go that way.
Well, if you had a 60 head, which is about this big, small, physically smaller than a multi-effects pedal board,
Okay.
if you like. In the immediate term, i.e. if you wanted to go to a store and buy one now, you could do that. You could put it in effects loop mode, and you could run that into any power stage you wanted. You could run it into recording software.
Okay.
You could, you could do that. That's today. I guess your other point about what other platforms, I guess you could use technology in. It's an interesting point because whilst we're developing the DSP, the algorithms, developing the sound and and creating the voices and the channels for these things, we use a lot of different technologies. Obviously we have hardware, it's running on hardware, but in the early stages we do prototype and we do run things that aren't necessarily on hardware. So it doesn't rule out the ability to do something like that in the future if there's demand for it, if people want to do that and maybe add features which give you a bit more of...
I mean, we've been talking about it during lunch. In my opinion, the best sounding software simulation at the moment is SCFMEMS.
Okay.
So, but the ID as what it can provide sound-wise, and it's sort of digitally calculated and driven, could substitute that either as being an interface with the included ID stuff or being completely software based.
Yeah. So I think one thing to mention, you were referencing ID Core being the cheapest sort of pedal board. If you're talking about recording software stuff, absolutely. I think if you take the ID Core Stereo 10, which in the UK is like an £89 product, the USB socket isn't just for data to inside the software, it carries full bidirectional stereo audio. So you get the same signal from your emulated output socket as you do going down the USB.
Yeah.
And it's a driverless solution that you plug into any recording software.
Okay.
And you will then get the emulated signal. So you're effectively getting an interface, your software for your amp creation, because the amp's actually creating the sounds, and you can stream it straight into your recording device. And there are a few other special tricks with Insider in the software. There you can change the format of that audio going down the USB. Rather than being a stereo emulated sound, you can have one side being an emulated sound and the other side being the clean DI guitar signal, which you can record, and then you can put the amp in reamping mode and send the clean signal back down to the amp and re-record with a different sound later on. So you've got all of those tricks almost as a full recording studio. For £89 in the UK, you can get an amp which does that and is your interface as well. So we've got all that available.
Well, I think at that point we just jump also to that ASIO for all question that was in there.
Okay,
as well. Because you said earlier that that we tried it on a Mac here. On a Mac it doesn't require any drivers, it just works in all the softwares that we need. There might be scenarios where the signal has to be packed into ASIO for all, which is just a wrapping format to be transported. And if people run into problems with that, it's very likely an individual problem, which would also mean that ask for help with the Blackstar guys, but it's not a solution that works in any scenario.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, basically, when we're touching on recording, we'll jump to this. It is a driverless solution, so on a Mac, we as part of our testing, we have lots of different formats. We have MacBook Airs, MacBook Pros, iMacs, Mac Pros, Mac Minis, and various different DAWs. We've got Logic. We go down the free and the paid solutions, Reaper and everything else. And as part of our test procedure for releasing anything, we run through a series of tests, actually recording and capturing like that. So we have tested, and we're confident that both ID Series and ID Core products on PCs and Macs will behave as exactly as you'd need them with very good latency performance. As you say, PCs aren't often quite as good at handling audio devices on via USB. So depending on what recording software you're using, some of them prefer to have an ASIO wrapped audio stream, whereby you can use any free or your own real choice of ASIO wrapper just to wrap the device, and you may find a small improvement in latency on a PC because of the way the ASIO navigates around the hardware layer. So that would be my advice, is if you're having any specific problems, best thing to do, drop us an email, give us a call, and we can talk through with, we've got quite a few guys here who are professionally recording with them all the time. So let us know if you have any problems, and I'm sure we can help in specific cases.
something that would basically match that area as well. And as you can see, I'm not following the numbers in front.
Whatever you need, yeah.
Whatever we need. The fact that you, as your latest products released to the market ID Core before the ID series, does not mean that the hand-wired stuff is going to disappear. It's just
Not
you're
so.
filling up.
Absolutely not.
You're filling up your arsenal,
Yeah.
and you're coming back to all of your ideas.
One thing probably we should say as well is that even though we've got lots of plans for using ID Core and ID series technology for future products, the very basis of our company is valve amplifiers, tube amplifiers. So there's going to be plenty of new valve and tube products, new ranges. So there's going to be plenty of work done on that. Also, obviously all the engineers that developed the Artisan series and the Series 1 also helped develop the ID series and the ID Core and products on the digital stage as well. So it's done by the same team. Artisan series is extremely important to us. It was the first amplifier line that we released, and it's kind of how we built our brand up, built our name up. A lot of our top artists use Artisan amps. People like James Williamson from Iggy and the Stooges, Boz Bora from Morrissey's band, Steve Craddock plays with Paul Weller, Bob Mould. It's a whole host. James Dean Bradfield from Manic Street Preachers. It's real high-end players that use this product. So it's extremely important to us. It hasn't disappeared. Obviously, you won't find it in every Blackstar dealer because it is a high-end product and we have different levels of dealership.
Yeah.
So you might not find it in every store, but it's certainly still around and you'll see it on stages all over the world because it really is used by some top people, top guitar players.
And it's still in production as we speak.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
still running, still fulfilling orders, and
Yeah.
Okay.
whoever wants it.
Last and final one around idea. The ID calculated signal, which is basically all of the preamp,
Yeah.
as far as I got you, at some point reaches a power stage. Currently the power stage is a transistor that is influenced by, in the bigger IDs, by the sort of adjusting the tubes. Could it be real tubes as well, or does the amplifier has to be in a certain way linear to make the calculated
It
input?
doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. In developing ID series, if you think along the front panel, from the voice control all the way up to the effects section, is all effectively digitally created. So lots of research, lots of design to understand why the sound needs to be how it is, and all of that is digital, including the true valve power section, and obviously the effects as well. The signal that comes out of all of our algorithms and processing then gets fed in our ID series to effectively a linear, it's a Class D power amp solution, which is extremely high efficiency, and all it requires is a decent amount of power. So actually during the development process, before we'd had finished designing the power amp solution, we were obviously designing the sounds and the rest of it, and actually I was for quite a while running all of the preamp and the true valve power sounds through a Series 1 104 EL34 power amp stage, and it's absolutely great.
Okay.
And obviously the point is then that when we've replaced the power stage for the prototypes of the product with the right kind of power amp that's as being delivered now, they sound the same.
Okay.
So yes, absolutely. If you want to do that, you can run the. As I said before, you can run the in effects loop mode and run the preamp and straight into a valve power amp, and that's up to you.
Okay.
We do valve power amps as well.
Okay. You bundled them?
Yeah.
Just a few.
An ID bundle with the power amps?
If you wanted to buy a Series 1 200 and an ID 100 head, you can do that. Use them together.
Okay. That would be not just being unfriendly to the neighbor, but to the whole countryside.
And yourself, if you were standing in front of
yourself,
that.
of course, yeah. We talked about the noise gate in Overdrive 1 and 2.
Yep.
And to make clear, there is a noise gate accessible by the user, but there's also one that is running in the background depending on the amount of gain that is expected.
Yeah.
You gave the reason earlier. To me,
Yeah.
I understood it. So
What we have in the system, which is true for to be honest, many digital products, is that you have a noise gate which is user controllable, which is the OD1 and OD2, which gives you have access to turn off or change the threshold from the inside of software. And then we have a level of, I would class it as noise reduction, whereby cleaning up the signal, which is dependent per voice for, as you say, your gain, to effectively control the background noise level. And that currently is not user accessible. It's sort of always on as part of the preamp design.
okay.
Similar to how you would do some tricks for noise reduction in the analog world. So there is a part of the preamp design which has got some noise reduction which currently the user can't control. So that's not to say it couldn't be controlled, but at the moment it's not a user accessible parameter.
But in regard to the feedback I gave you from the folks back home, the good news is it is controllable through software.
Yep.
And I guess folks back home would appreciate if you can implement.
Yeah, I think it's certainly something that I will put on our rolling list. We actually have ironically, I have a window upstairs, a real window, which has lots of post-it notes with things we can do and ideas from people. I call it the window of opportunities, which is a little silly, but that's just me. And I will put that on a post-it and it will go on my window of opportunities. So we could certainly implement something like that, and we'll look to do that for the next upgrade. And I think general point for all the guys on the Musiker-Board and everywhere else is that please let us know what you want. You know, if you guys have come up with a great idea and you think, you know, I would really like it if it was this. So share it on the board, talk about it on the board, and obviously we can get feedback from that. And if people think there's a feature that we could implement, we'll look at it and we'll see if we can include it.
Good. And talking about update, there's no way to downgrade. Although being a young company, 7 years in the market, you've got some products already that have been attractive to other companies to follow that path.
Yeah.
Does that make you proud, or you're more neutral, or you're angry, or what's your mindset on that?
I guess you're talking mainly about HD5 there. Yeah, I mean, HD5, I think you find that with any very successful product. Yeah. Your competitors see that area of the market is doing well, and that product's doing well, and they try and imitate. Yeah, it's kind of flattering, but of course it takes some of your market share. I mean, as we were discussing earlier, we have a product plan, and we do everything on purpose. The HT5 actually was an opportunity rather than doing it on purpose. Our Japanese distributor came to us and they were doing extremely well with the HT dual pedal, which is ECC 83 driven, so it's basically like putting a preamp stage in front of your rig. And they said that we think we'd do very, very well with this preamp stage with a power stage, or a small 5-watt power stage with it. So that's kind of how the development of the HT5 came along, and it was a huge success. It was a great success for us. So yeah, I mean, it's a bit of both really. It's to answer your question, it's flattering because it made an impact into the market, and to be fair, it was probably the amp that brought Blackstar more into the mainstream and more into guitarist minds. It was a great kind of solution for practicing at home but getting your valve tone also with the emulated out, recording onto tape or whatever device you want to record onto. So yeah, it's kind of a bit of both really. It's kind of a little bit annoying, but yeah, of course it's always gonna happen.
Sure. ID helps musicians in regard to making things lighter.
Yes.
Not easier, but lighter.
Well, we're not.
Is there other ways to save weight on your products? Are you specifically looking for ideas? Or
yeah, I mean we've looked at a number of different things. Like on the Series 145, the original S145 had Neo speakers, so that brought the weight down a little bit. But obviously with a valve amp, there's certain things that you need to produce a valve amp. One being very big transformers, which aren't light.
They're not light.
They're not light. And the other is, that was just one of the benefits of having like some like the ID series and digital technology. You don't need those big components that really create the weight. So, for you kind of play with a bad back, as a lot of us now have after carrying multiple 4x12s and heavy valve heads. It's a real godsend, so particularly when you come to that gig and it's just way up the stairs.
Above the pub with the stairs that look like that.
The winding staircase,
they promised a working elevator, but it's not working.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think that's one thing that when we did ID series, we knew it was a benefit that people would have, but I think the people who ended up buying ID series was kind of in addition to the people we thought would buy it, and is sort of experienced local gigging musicians. And actually, it was known that it was going to be a feature, but actually we were quite impressed with the feedback that we got from those kind of people who came back with going, I bought one because it's so light. I mean, you could pick up that 100-watt head that's behind you, with one or two fingers. I mean, that's the whole point. It was a real benefit, and I think, depending on the product, it's certainly one of the things we do consider, knowing that we've lugged around 200-watt valve amps for a long time.
Yeah.
True. Oh boy, I tell you, our tanks are empty. Or was it just a battery?
That's a good thing, right?
Yeah. Quality control is a big issue in regard to creating, developing here in England, building in Asia, shipping worldwide.
Yeah.
What's your strategy to omit funny results?
Well, do you want to tell us?
No, you go. I'll chip in.
It's a very, very big deal. There's no point designing a product, releasing a product, making a great sounding product that either when you manufacture en masse or the product finally ships and gets delivered to somebody at their door, and either the quality is poor, it doesn't work, it's not as intended, it's not as designed, doesn't sound right. There's no point doing that.
Yeah. It
damages the brand. It doesn't achieve any good products at the end of the day. So it's as big, absolutely is as big as marketing, actually developing the things in the first place and getting the pricing structure right. And basically the way we achieve it is by having full control at every stage. I mean, we don't have manufacturing facilities of our own. We have a number of manufacturing partners who we work, first of all, really, really hard to choose the right people. We have a number of partners rather than just one or two. Yeah. And because we have such a complete product line now, be it hand-wired artisan, all the way down to individual compact LT pedals, which are sub £50 retail, that kind of thing, and have very different construction methods and materials. We pick the right people to make the product. That's the first step, and it's working with them to get lots of prototype engineering samples, pre-production stuff, which is all to work towards the point whereby when somebody actually makes a mass production product for us, that it is of the quality that we want to put the Blackstar name on at the end of the day. And we do that in a number of ways, by controlling every stage of it, as I say. So from all the designs, prototypes will be made in the UK to best work out the manufacturing methods and the ways of producing these things in mass production. We then get our contract manufacturer partner in for that particular product involved as early as possible, so we can work through the best ways to do it together. Often comes with us saying our experience says make it like this, and we have a discussion, or actually if their experience is, well, we make things like this and this works well for us, and okay, we work on it as a design team, and that's at the design level.
Yeah.
Once we've got that agreed, we then fundamentally spend a lot of time out in Asia.
Okay.
I nearly had Christmas dinner in Asia this year, but that's the point. We are there. I mean, there's nothing better. Whilst we have someone out in Asia all the time for us, we have daily, weekly, monthly, all sorts of video conferencing and meetings and conversations with our partners. There really isn't a substitute for being out there yourself, and it's a combination of the operations department. And we saw Russell earlier on, and looking a little tired.
Coming from Asia.
Just retired. So that at every main stage of the development, whether it's introducing the product to the people who are going to make it, or watching the first one's production come out off the line, or at any stage in between of evaluating prototypes, we are there, we are doing it, we write the procedures, we own it and control it all.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, when the samples get made, we may be evaluating them over there, but really what will happen is they'll come back to the UK, to right where we are now, Blackstar HQ. We will have a reference sample that we know is good and the one we want that all the rest of them sound like, and we will do a test, both for cosmetics, for how it sounds, how it looks, quality of manufacture, quality of parts, and we're just involved at every step of the way, and that's the only way we can guarantee that it's a product we will put the Blackstar logo on.
All right. You were talking about price points, which is part of the development process, also part of the selection and part of the criteria which materials to choose.
Yeah.
Most of the time, they would also prefer if they have a small amplifier in regard to wattage or power that still has or keeps and maintains all the features that the biggies have.
Yeah, yeah.
Nobody really went that path so far. Most of the times, coming from 100 watt to 5 watts, you lose 3/4 of the features on the way down.
Sure.
Is that something you might want to look into it? What has to be done to make a low wattage package, but having all the features?
Also physical size as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's something at the very product brief stage. So before we've even designed anything, you know, we put down what features we want and what price point we want it to hit. So it's then this man's job to go and make that happen. You know, and it's easier said than done. You know, with ID Core, we knew what area of the market that needed to be in, and it needed to be sub €99, £99, $99. So it was a real challenge, you know, and you'll see from the features on ID Core, it's got all the main features on there, or like I say, the core features from the ID series. You can obtain the other features from the insider software, so it's all there for you, and it's a very, very, very reasonable price.
Silly price.
And beyond anything else, it sounds great. You know, for the price, with the super wide stereo, when you kick the effects in, it's such an immersive sound, and it's fun to play. And we as a company are very proud of that product. But yeah, of course, price is something that we continually look at, and even amplifiers that we've had out on the market for some time now, you know, we're looking at can we do cost downs? Is there anything that will not be detrimental to the sound, but will maybe get it to a new price point in the marketplace, where
give people the chance to get it at a better
more bang for their buck, as they say in the US.
Yeah.
I think with regards to sort of the fully featured size point of view, as I think you were correct in there's a general perception of a physically smaller amp or physically not as powerful amp are cheap or cheaper. If, for example, I mean, you take the ID15 for example, there are so many features on that for its size, but one of the things is, for example, that from the bigger version, 60 watts plus, that's removed from a feature set. There's the MIDI socket, for example. There's no MIDI control for that, and that's often really drawn from what differentiates the range. Where will that product be used? Where will that one be used? Where will that one be used? And I think there is the cost balance. In practice, there's not massive amount of cost involved in MIDI, but I think there's quite a bit of physical size.
Mm.
So you
Okay.
think you've got a MIDI socket, you've got the opto controls, you've got physical size inside, and when you do the product brief stage, as Joel says, is you effectively, we talk with our main customers and distributors of, okay, if we're making a range, and what would you think this should have, and what would that have, and what would that have, and it's all sort of one big picture that, you know, we'll make some decisions on. But
Sure.
if a really highly spec'd, fully featured, not necessarily super cheap, but small product is wanted in the market, then again, please tell us if that's what you want, and if that's what enough people want, we'll look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I see it. You get a Volkswagen Rabbit,
Mm-hmm.
also with leather interior
Yeah.
and wood.
Yeah.
So why not get an
There you go. There's,
And,
if people want that,
with the feature,
people will make it.
Yeah.
with featureitis, as we say in Germany,
Okay.
or featureitis, whatever you
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to pronounce it. How do you communicate with your customer? You said you're trying to access
Yes.
information and return.
Very good
From
question.
them?
Yeah. Again, it's all about doing things on purpose. So obviously, as a manufacturer, we have various different customers. One of our customers is obviously our distributor, and we get a lot of information from our distributors about their marketplaces and about their customers, but also from our end users. So the guys that are actually going into store, buying Blackstar and playing it all the time. And as a company and as a marketing department, we find that that information is absolutely invaluable. They're the guys on the floor using the gear, and they can give you so much information about the products they're using, the products they want. So we do it in various different ways. We do various focus groups where we actually sit down and talk to guitar players, and they give us relevant information. And something that some of the guys on the forum have taken part in some of our surveys. We do regular surveys. Just asking them questions, you know, constantly asking our customers questions and guitar players questions about the marketplace, about how Blackstar's being perceived, about how our products are perceived, how they're using our products, and it's all such vital information, and that really builds up a big picture of us as a company, where we are, and again, looking at new products and what we should be concentrating on and what we should be developing next. So vitally important to us, and you know, getting our customer feedback is always relevant and always analysed.
And that was the feedback portion. In regard to help,
Mm.
we had that educational concept
Yeah,
earlier,
yeah,
plus the fact that you pointed out the ultimate way to get in contact is the direct email or the
absolutely,
phone call.
yeah.
Because there's that too many sources out there to supervise everything
yeah,
and get the question from all kind of sources.
yeah.
The direct way is the best one if you really want to make
Yeah,
sure that it reaches you.
Within Blackstar, we have a dedicated full-time customer service person. I'll give his name, Ollie Clubb, and he's extremely good. He's an in-house product specialist. Obviously, there's many forums where players can get in touch now, but we need as a company to kind of channel them all through one direction. So that's for our website, and if you go to you can email inquiries@blackstaramps.com. We have a policy where every inquiry is answered within 48 hours, so you'll be answered with your question very, very quickly, or of course you can call us. We have a direct customer service telephone line, which is 01604 817 817. I should have done that in German, but it might have taken a little longer.
+44 if you're not dialing from England.
That's true, yeah, +44.
But you can get all that information on the website. It's,
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, if you channel your question through that means, you'll definitely get an answer. We can't monitor all our forums and Facebooks and Instagrams. It's just impossible. So you know, we keep those areas more for users to kind of share their information, share their feedback on Blackstar, giving information out to our customers on Facebook, you know, via demos and artist videos and competitions. You know, make it a bit more fun and interactive. But yeah, any kind of technical questions that you may have, go through the inquiries at blackstaramps.com.
Okay. Plus that educational part, that there's tutorials out there on what to do.
We've got our YouTube channel. We've got where we put up, obviously, our product videos. If people, or more than a couple of people coming to us with the same kind of question, maybe we've obviously got all of our product handbooks online available. If you go onto blackstararms.com and go on support, there's all the handbooks are there for all of our products, including the Cider software and ID series and ID core. But if we have more than a couple of questions about a similar thing, we think, well, we could do a quick video tutorial demo.
Yeah.
So we have Steve Marks, our product trainer, and we do all the videos in the room. We sat right here now.
Yeah.
And we can make we've done some recording about TVP and demo mode and things like that, and we'd address things like that if the user manuals and say the in software support, things like that isn't enough.
And we do monthly webinars or webcasts as well, which again is a great educational tool. They're live, so if you tuned in live, you can ask questions live and get them answered live, which is great. We then also put them onto our YouTube channel. It's way more in depth, but we still try and keep it quite short and snappy and very easy to follow. So they're never longer than about half an hour. So even if you're watching it on like kind of re-record, pre-record, you can watch it during a lunch break, and it gives you every piece of information you can. It's always on a different topic. So it might be on HT5s and HT1s, or it might be on ID core or ID series. So it's always worth kind of tuning into them as well, because they're a great source. Yeah.
In regard to that question we had earlier, price points and feature reaches.
Yeah.
That restrictions the market gives you in regard to which price you have to hit to make a product. Does that hinder you from doing great products, or does it put extra creativity out to...
I think that's probably closer to the mark.
Yeah.
I think when we're talking about design brief stage and we're looking at a product, we look at, there's a few channels. We look at what our catalogue already looks like, where maybe we think, we've got an idea for a product that could sit in that sector or that sector, and so that's one way of looking at things. You've also then got market demand. You've got people's going, I'd love it if you make a product like this, or people identify something that we might be able to do. There's also the technical research side of things that's always ongoing as part of our forecasting of 3+ years ahead of ourselves already for release. Is that we also are doing ongoing technical research just for a point of view of, well, if we come up with a new innovation like ISF, DPR, the TVP, trivial power stuff as well, they all came out of that process of just developing technology, and then we see what that technology is of use for from a product point of view. So I think that's part of it, and then it's more about achieving, how can we get that feature in a physical cost to manufacture to a point that will work in a price point, and who needs that feature and what the market segment is. So I think it's a big picture of lots of
absolutely. And in no way do we ever compromise. We don't ever compromise on features or tone. It's just like, it has to be that price point, but we're not gonna make it that price point and give you a bad sound. We would never do that. And we always benchmark our products against the current market leader, and then we make sure ours is 1, better, 2, has better features, and 3, has some kind of innovation on there. And you'll find that in every Blackstar product. And that's kind of irrelevant. We know what price point we need to hit. That's an R&D issue, which is very tough and very challenging, but by and large we always get to the kind of area that we want. And in some areas of our product placement in the market, we aren't the cheapest, but we're certainly competitive, and we do believe that we are the best sounding.
I think one quick point on that, you mentioned about do we ever find it difficult or compromise on it, is you'll notice, as Joel was mentioning, really, that every one of our products that we've ever released has some kind of innovation on it. There's never we never do what's called a Me Too product. So we never look at something that's in the market and go, well, we could knock one of those out, so
Mhm.
we will, and we'll probably sell a few, and that'll be fine. Every single product that we do has got some new innovation on it.
Okay.
Either brand new technology or new at that price point or otherwise. And I think that is why we keep innovating and keep coming up with products. And every product range to date has won media awards for review, and that's really a big part of it. We've never had a product range launch that hasn't won an award in the press. So
Okay.
we're really proud of that, and we think that's part of it.
On the other hand, you, as such a young company, there's no history you have to fill up by doing the same thing again and again.
Exactly, yeah, and that's very kind of it makes you very free, and coming from the background where we were from, which is an absolutely brilliant place and a great place to learn a lot. There was obviously expectations there where it had to sound and look a certain way, and then coming starting your own brand and having none of those expectations there, you can literally go anywhere you wanted, and that's why it's worked, and that's why a new company like us has been able to grow and be successful in 7 years' time and bring out amplifiers into the market with innovation. And it's not just innovation for innovation's sake. It's tools like the ISF and the DPR and the TVP that guitarists actually want. They can actually use these features. It's not just a gimmick at all. It does what it says on the tin, and it does it well. And guitarists use it and appreciate it.
In regard to the ISF function, when we worked with the small one earlier, because there's sort of a question behind it, but basically the patent is available to read if you want to know what the technical stuff is.
Yep.
So, just as a small wrap up of ISF, the American side is, as we found out, more like a V-shape equalizer setting, where the lowest part of the V would be 0 and not below 0. So you're bringing up highs and lows, and the British side would, in addition to that, also bring a mid peak in there, so it looks like a W. But it's not that you're cutting away stuff; you're adding stuff. Basically,
it's not an active circuit in so much as it's all boost. But the important part with the ISF is that the control is react with the bass, middle, and treble controls as well. On first read, a lot of people think maybe it's just a notch, or there are other brands who have a notch or like a contour scoop, which effectively just takes a mid range and moves it around the frequency band. And ISF is patented in part because it reacts properly with bass, middle, and treble. So actually, if you're cutting the bass with the bass control, then it's going to react in the same way. It's not just a fixed overlaid shape that moves across the frequency band. And I think obviously it is a patented design. The best way to do to really get more of a head around it is have a look at the patent. It's available. It's very dynamic with the bass, middle, and treble as well.
And the last one is if you turn around in 50 years of amp history, what is for you personally the biggest change, the biggest impact that ever happened, like PCB board? If there's one single item you would name for yourself, that made it for me.
Well, the master volume was pretty bigger, I guess. That was obviously
you've been reading my question.
A game changer. Well, it's a game changer, but that's what really excited me about Blackstar. It was when I met up with Bruce and Ian, and they showed me the ISF. It was I was kind of blown away by it, because for me the biggest kind of innovation in guitar amplification had been the master volume, and obviously that was many years ago. There's been some. Don't get me wrong. There's been some cool amps, and there's been some cool technologies and products, but that to me was just wow. I hadn't seen that before. And
Oh, wow.
I had a list of I knew that every guitar player that I knew was going to absolutely love the ISF, and they'll be able to use it. Not just guitar players, but producers as well. You know, just with one switch. You know, instead of miking up 10 different cabs, you know, they could have this small pedal in front of them and use the ISF control to get all these different sounds now. So that, to me, I've got to say is, I know it sounds biased, but it was an incredibly exciting thing, and one of the biggest things I think in our sector for many years.
I think for me, I've played for quite a while. I was a Blackstar customer and fan before I joined. I own one of the very first HT disc pedals from 2007, completely coincidentally in a way, but I think for me, I was quite a traditional player. My role here is I head up the digital team, so I think for me, taking away what my job title is, I think the flexibility and what we can do now with digital technologies to get the sounds that everybody wants, but that doesn't have to cost thousands of pounds. I think the innovation, the big turning point for me is different ways to achieve a great sound. And I think be it digitally or otherwise is you can get that now.
Adding up options.
It is, and
optional paths you can go.
I remember being younger, slightly less grey around the back, and effectively, if you're in a bedroom and you want to learn, you want to practice and play guitar, you want to sound like you're playing through a big amp, and you want to play because there's that big sound and big distortion and all that sort of stuff, and you couldn't really achieve that at the time because small, low-cost amps, they just didn't sound the same. So inevitably, you don't like the sound you're hearing, and you don't want to play, and you want to practice. I think on a bigger scale of playing guitar and practicing and learning, I think the innovation of having the ability to get those sounds at a price point where you can afford it and it's a volume and a size with digital technology is probably where I'd go with that. Again, without being biased of being from the Blackstar digital team.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That was interesting.
Thank you, Martin.
Including the rest of the day, which was really interesting and inspiring.
Yeah, we've enjoyed having you.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
And
85 decibels.
well, cheers.
Drink time.
Drink time.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.